Gundam.tk presents Master Gundam and Fuun Saiki. Hey, what's up again, everybody? Robert184, 2 R's, 2 B's from YouTube and Gundam.tk, and as first grade Exia gets out of the way, yes, it's time for the final verdict on the high-grade Future Century Master Gundam and Fuun Saiki. Lots of positives, but a few negatives out of the way first. Even though when you're seeing poses like this in front of his horse, yes, it seems like it's hard to come up with the negatives, but there are some of them. The first one being, Fuun Saiki out of the box is going to come with that action base there, the small one that's custom just for it. Unfortunately, it looks terrible when it's in white. Right away, the pros had it painted black. The minute I did that, of course, the black background helps, but just being under Master Asia there, it stopped standing out, and otherwise I think it would stick out like a sore white thumb. As it spins around here too, you may notice that there's a lot of yellow parts there. It could have been yellow parts, I suppose, on the Master Grade. I wonder if it is. But that's an even bigger problem there with Fuun Saiki on his face. All of these yellow parts here are painted by me, including the horn. If you didn't do that, it would look terrible. The fact that they give you seals specifically in this yellow for the backpack and for the hooves, for the gray, you'd think that they could put some more on the face itself. Now, when you actually open up the cloak in normal mode, it looks a little bit awkward the way it's hanging down. It's not quite the angle that you'd imagine from the anime as the hand just comes forward. It is good that you can move it, but it doesn't quite have the same visual oomph that you might expect it to. In terms of the effect parts, are you a fan of the big hollowness there? I don't mind the speed lines, but it just seems a little bit... It could have been more filled in, or they could have given you two parts, which either would have given you the ability to have two hands, or to at least to put them together to just firm the whole thing up and make it look a little bit more interesting. As well, you do have the ability to store some of the extra parts. You may have seen that the blue part that comes out of the normal cloak, it can fit inside, but you have this little part here that has to be used whenever you extend and put the arm out. Would have been nice if they had found room for that. Inside, you've got this big comfortable coat. Why not have lots of pockets on the inside storing everything for you? And then when it comes to the actual hands, one of them is useless, and I'm talking about the one that holds the Master Cloth or the reins of Fuun Saiki. It always came apart. It doesn't want to stay together at all. It's too bad. It's two pieces. You need that to be able to split it off to get the parts in. However, it should go well together better than it does, and it's because the nubs has a little tiny peg and it's just too small. Now the wing shield here, as you see it spinning around, I think it's looking all right, but it would have been a little bit nicer if from the front, as the Master Gundam comes into view here, if you were looking at them straight on, if you were able to have them coming a little bit more forward, just to get the Strike Freedom Destiny effect where you've got the wings pretty much just in line with the body, I think it just adds a little bit more visual oomph and it just adds the width. Now the fact that you can move them into the dynamic poses is of course the most important thing. Now, my biggest complaint probably is just that Fuun Saiki, though, you have to use this action base because otherwise he's not going to be able to go down on all fours, and that's because the hooves are locked into place. They're a little bit tricky to get them in the first place. If you don't get them at the right angle, you won't be able to close up the shins or anything like that. It just seems a shame that it's such a large, integral part of this kit, and it's got tons of points of articulation in everywhere except for the place that it matters, because you can imagine... If you don't always want him rearing up like that and the Master Gundam looking like he's going to fall off the back, they could easily prevent that by just having him down on his ankles. And, as a throwaway silly thing, Master Gundam, he has tons of cool attacks. The Master Cloth is great, but what if there were more effect parts to replicate some of his more interesting ones? But then, that's just dreaming. I didn't expect there to be 4 minutes of negatives, but there is going to be a lot more than 4 minutes of positives unless I self-censor here. First of all, look at what you're seeing right here. You've got a Gundam with these majestically swept back wings and big effect parts on a horse with all sorts of colors on it. The colors for this kit are fantastic. You're getting the two colors of blue in the body. The wings look great, and the yellow seals, they don't put me off at all. They're working just fine. It's an incredibly fun build because the Master Gundam, you've got great posability, the way everything goes together, it's very clever. The little details like the red parts there in the waist and the chest and on the shins, and the fact that you're going to have these blue parts which are so easy to take on and off of the wings, everything about the build was fun. And the posability, he's got to be able to pull off anything you'd imagine, and he can, and that's thanks in no small part to the great ankles, great legs, the waist can go every direction, this way, rotate around. The wings can go into 90-80% of the places that you want them to go into, and combine that with a whole bunch of hands, and you can pull off whatever pose you've seen in a Hong Kong movie. I'm also really impressed with the wing shields, and that's for a couple reasons. First of all, they give you the two different ones, so you can have the ones that you've seen here, or you can have the full-on set. And this full-on set, I think it's just great. If they had tried to cram it all in there, it wouldn't have worked at all. Instead, they give you the extra parts, so yes, you need a Ziploc, but I'm very happy they did that, and it's because of the design. To have 3 parts in the front, 3 parts in the back, and 2 off to the side, I think is just genius. It's not the way I would have expected it done, but I'm very glad that they decided to go a little bit unorthodox there. And how about for the actual Master Gundam itself? Look at his head. The way that you've got such a ridiculously oversized part there, with the blue, with the red part fitting in perfectly into the forehead, a good white faceplate, and the goatee, I think he looks just perfect. And the head is, of course, most noticeable because that's what makes the Master Gundam who it is. As it spins around here into view, what about the effect parts? Fuun Saiki is oversized and larger than life. And right now, if you had the Master Gundam with just a small darkness finger, it might look a little bit out of place. But the big effect parts, I think they're great. The whooshing effect on the side, everything about them works. And it even makes you not want to forget this little tiny Master Asia that they include. Because at first, I figured that you'd just throw this away as you cut off the parts. It would have been nice if they had given you the 2, I thought. But instead, you've just got that little bit of master cloth down there for him, and it's actually proportional, and you have no problems actually using it as a weapon because everything you need just works. Now on to Fuun Saiki. You can't forget this part of the combi. He looks great, especially lined, I have to say. I think if you didn't line him, he'd be a little bit dull. It's more posable than I thought. The fact that you've got a tail that moves, the saddle, the head, and these front legs are especially great because you've got 2 sets of ball joints and a very nice bend down there. At the knee, they seem to work great. The fact that you've got red reins, it matches the red part up there, and you're going to have these gray seals, and the green eyes really do look menacing, and this is an angry horse you do not want to get kicked by. Now the fact that he can sit on there, it looks like he's leaning back just a little bit. You could fix that if you played with the wings a bit. But overall, you can put Domon on there. You can put on anybody who's got an action-based mount. And the fact that there's a Fuun Saiki and he has been recreated this well is something that nobody can sneeze at, I think. Final verdict, sure, there's a few negatives, but the positives far outweigh it, and I think this pose is just showing why. Great build, great colors, and great posability. I don't know what else you'd want, except for the fact that doesn't nail the power of the anime, and I don't think it could do any better. In fact, it almost makes me wonder if you need a master grade altogether, because this high grade just does such a good job in every department that there's really hardly anything that I'd change about it, and I would recommend it to anybody who liked G Gundam at all. Is there a need for a master grade? Well, not for the Master Gundam. We've already got him in 2 different colors. But what about a master grade Fuun Saiki? One can always dream. But we'll see what happens to the sales here. Yes, it's a little bit expensive, more than a regular high grade, but when you look at the sheer amount of the size of the completed model, I cannot not recommend this, and I think you'll like it if you picked it up as much as I do. Also, I should mention the bonus that this came out with the high-grade Future Century Shining Gundam, and I can't wait to have the 2 of them on my shelf together. It's great that they're being played up even on the cover art, in the manual, everywhere they should be, and yes, Fuun Saiki works with the God Gundam too. However, I always like to say this, but this is just my opinion, and it's just one of many, so why don't you let me know your many opinions down below of the Mobile Fighter, Fuun Saiki, all the extras, the price, and where the high-grade Future Century line is going to go. I want to buy them all, and I hope that the sales are going to justify it. It's onto the Shuffle Alliance you'd think next, and if they came out 2 of them on a certain week, that would be fantastic, spread out over 2 different week release dates. Anyway, everybody, one can hope, and I hope we will be back here so you can see more kits from this great line. Nothing's let me down. It's a great addition to high-grade Universal Century. See you next time. Lots more to come. Bye. You know, I'd still put my money on Master Asia in this fight. And if you've read Crossbone Gundam, you know that it's possible to win. Never mind somebody with this guy's skills. It's not quite perfect, but that would work pretty well if you wanted to recreate the double god finger.